The first trade of the Red Sox offseason is officially here. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. For those of you who may not know, last night was the deadline for teams to decide between their arbitration eligible players who they were going to offer contracts to for the 2024 season. What this led to was a whole lot of teams shuffling their rosters and trades between teams as teams try to figure out who they wanted to keep for the 2024 season and who they wanted to move on from. This also led to a couple of really intriguing free agent options who just became available that could be interesting to the Boston Red Sox that we're going to be talking about over the next few days. But more importantly, what happened last night is the Red Sox made their first big league trade of the Craig Breslow era. So what we are going to do in today's videos, we're going to break down that first trade. We're going to talk about who was traded, why they were traded. We're going to talk about the return the Red Sox got, why this guy may have been targeted. And we're also obviously going to talk about how all of this affects the Boston Red Sox. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. The first trade to go down for the Boston Red Sox this offseason happened at 8 p.m. Eastern time last night, right at the non-tender deadline where teams decided whether or not they were going to give players contracts. This trade sent Red Sox second baseman Luis Urias to the Seattle Mariners in exchange for one of their relievers by the name of Isaiah Campbell. For Luis Urias, he was fine with the Boston Red Sox, right? When he was originally traded over, there was a hope that the Red Sox would be able to unlock something that he had been missing over the last couple of years and get him back closer to that 2021 form where he had 23 bombs and 112 OPS plus, where he was well above average and gave you that power production in the lineup. Unfortunately, that never really came to fruition, and Luis Urias finished his campaign with the Boston Red Sox in the second half, playing in 32 games, sporting a 225 average with a 361 on base percentage and a 337 slug, good for a 91 OPS plus, or about 9% below league average production, which again, really isn't terrible. It's not good, but it's not bad either. It's just sort of kind of average, and the perfect way to describe it is Luis Urias was fine with the Boston Red Sox. But when you look at the list of players who had the option to be non-tendered and not given a contract, Luis Urias kind of stood out. Some other candidates on this list were guys like Alex Verdugo, who's always going to get a contract, Nick Pivetta, who is always going to get a contract, John Schreiber, who got a contract, and the other one who there was some conversation about whether or not he was going to be given a contract was Reese McGuire. Because of the Red Sox situation, there was thoughts around the team that there might be a possibility the Red Sox don't give him a contract and try to make some upgrades in the catching position. At least for right now, that did not happen, as he appears to have gotten a contract with the Boston Red Sox for 2024. Obviously, all these guys still have to go through arbitration, so we don't know what those numbers are, but in terms of Luis Urias, it didn't really ever feel like there was a legitimate spot on the Boston Red Sox for Urias in 2024, right? Granted, Luis Urias had the opportunity to give himself that chance to be a guy on the 2024 Red Sox. In 2023, second base was sort of a black hole for this team. You had a bunch of different players come through, and Luis Urias was one of those guys who the Red Sox got in hopes that he'd play himself into an everyday role. That never really happened. The bat never really lined up with what they were hoping to get out of him, either as a bench bat or a platoon bat at second base. Neither really worked out super well. On top of that too, Luis Urias wasn't exactly the best defender in the world. Again, like his offensive statistics, they weren't terrible. He wasn't a bad defender, but he really wasn't a good one either. He finished 2023, again, small sample size of 32 games, but still -3 defensive runs saved at second base, which again, isn't terrible. It's not very good either. He just sort of sat there in the middle and never really played himself into an everyday role going into 2024 with the goal set out by Craig Breslow and by the Red Sox this offseason to get better defensively and more versatile at the plate. Luis Urias didn't really fit into that. If you're talking about a bench role, you have Pablo Reyes already on the bench and Manuel Valdez in the mix as well. Guys who could play second base, maybe not as well, but they could play second base and did more offensively for you, especially coming off the bench. Luis Urias, again, he just simply did not have a spot. Coming in for Luis Urias, right-handed reliever from the Seattle Mariners by the name of Isaiah Campbell. Now, granted, Isaiah did not pitch a ton in Major League Baseball last year. He played over 27 games, throwing 28 and 2/3 innings, but he had a pretty good 2023 campaign. He finished 2023 with a 2.83 ERA and a 3.32 FIP with a fairly high 10.4 K per nine, but also a fairly high walk rate at 4.1 per nine. So a little bit over 1 strikeout per inning and a little bit under 1 walk every 2 innings. This led to a pretty impressive 1.44 ERA plus, or about 44% more productive on the mound than the average pitcher in Major League Baseball. In terms of who Isaiah Campbell is, he's a 26-year-old whose rookie season was 2023. I don't know because of the innings limit. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Maybe someone can let me know in the comment section down below whether or not he'll retain his rookie status for 2024, but he was drafted in 2019 by the Seattle Mariners in the 2nd round, and so, kind of interestingly, he was actually born in Portugal but drafted out of college in the United States. So a little bit of an interesting path for Isaiah Campbell, and this is a bit of an intriguing pickup for the Boston Red Sox. Based on his experience in the major leagues, it's probably safe to assume that going into spring training, Isaiah Campbell won't have a guaranteed spot on the Red Sox 26-man roster. It's more likely than not that he will be one of the guys fighting for a bullpen spot in the month of February leading up to the start of the regular season, which could be an interesting battle to think about because Isaiah had a pretty decent 2023 and his numbers are really intriguing. From the right side of the mound, Isaiah has a 95-mile-an-hour fastball with a slider and a sweeper to play off of. You combine that with the fact that he has strikeout stuff at the major league level, right? We talked about his K per nine, but his whiff rate is sitting at 28.6%, which if he had qualified inning-wise to compare him to the rest of baseball would have been well above average, meaning he's got that strikeout stuff, but the walk rate being a bit high is slightly concerning. My guess is that if he does make the roster with the Boston Red Sox, he'll be somewhere around that sort of bridge gap type pitcher where he comes in the 5th or 6th inning if a starter can't get through those innings, or maybe even the 7th inning to bridge to your setup and then your closer, right? That sort of 1 to 2 inning type guy in the middle of games is sort of where I see Isaiah Campbell sort of flattening out with the Boston Red Sox if he were to make the team, but it is a bit intriguing, right? You've got those strikeout numbers, you've got the fact that he had a really good rookie campaign, you've got the fact that he has some major league experience. This could be an interesting name to watch as we get closer to the major league season. So now that you know the trade details, let's talk about whether or not this was a good trade for the Red Sox and ultimately how this is going to impact the 2024 offseason as well as the 2024 regular season. I know this isn't exactly the most exciting trade in the world. I know this isn't exactly the trade that's going to make you go, oh my God, the Red Sox did what? Make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, make you run out and go buy jerseys. But I still think it's a pretty impressive trade by the Boston Red Sox, right? They realized that, hey, we're going to be non-tendering Luis Urias. We don't have a spot for him on the 2024 roster. We don't think he's going to make an impact on this team. And instead of letting him walk out the door and join free agency, they decided, hey, let's call around to the rest of teams in Major League Baseball and see if there's a partner out there that'd be willing to take a chance on Luis Urias and see if they can get him to the spot that we couldn't and see if we can get anything in return. And lo and behold, they got a bite for it, right? Not only did they get a bite for it, they got a guy who could be a bit of an intriguing arm to watch as we get closer towards the Major League season, who could quite possibly make an impact on the 2024 Red Sox. To me, that's a net positive trade. Again, it's not the flashiest trade in the world, but when we're talking about whether or not this trade was successful, I think for sure it was, right? You were going to lose this guy anyways. Instead, you turned him around, you made something out of it. It kind of reminds me of the Kike Hernandez trade the Red Sox made during the regular season, right? The Kike Hernandez was probably going to be DFA'd at some point. Instead of doing that, they turned him around and flipped him for a couple of prospects. Sort of a similar situation here, and I really like that idea, right? Don't give up anything for nothing. See if you can get something in return, something of possible value, and that's exactly what the Red Sox did. I would say, again, this is a positive for this Red Sox team, and it's a positive that this is Craig Breslow's first trade of his era, right? Again, it's not the flashy trade, it's not the headline trade, but I think all in all, when you're looking at it, it's a successful trade for this Red Sox team. Now, in terms of what this means for the offseason, it really doesn't mean a whole lot, right? We can't really use this trade to predict what the Red Sox are going to do. We can't really use this trade to see what sort of direction they're going in. but we can take a couple of things out of this. The first is that the Red Sox are going to be in on the second base market, right? Either via trade with guys like Jonathan India and other candidates as well, or the free agent market where you're looking at Whit Merrifield, Tim Anderson, and guys like that who could man second base for a short period of time. It does also mean that they're clearing 40-man roster spots, right? They also dropped Wyatt Mills in this non-tender deadline stampede that happened last night. So now you've got an extra spot on the 40-man roster, right? And it also could indicate that the Red Sox are looking to get something out of nothing. They're looking to get stuff that normally you just sort of walk and let bygones be bygones. They're trying to make something out of it, which to me is a really good sign, especially when you're looking at guys like Alex Verdugo and people who are on the last years of their deals, where the Red Sox are thinking, okay, does this person fit in well with this 40-man roster, or are plans for the 2024 season? And if not, what can we do to make this team better? And I think that's a really great mindset to have. And I think that's what's highlighted in this trade, is that they're looking to make this 2024 team better. And it gets me a little bit more excited about what the future is going to be trade-wise this offseason, because again, when we're talking about the free agent market, it's going to be very competitive this year. Some of the Red Sox moves may have to come via the trade market, and this is a really great start in my opinion. But it is just my opinion, right? At the end of the day, it's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this trade? Do you care about it at all? Does it mean anything to you? Do you think it was successful for the Red Sox? Do you think it was a failure for the Red Sox? What are your thoughts on the Red Sox first big league trade this offseason? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you all in the red seats.